The city of Bleakhallow, the most southern city in the realm of Galabus, was once a shining beacon for the races of Uzorah, a welcoming hub for all who wished to bask in its beauty and bathe in its splendor. The city stood upon the tallest hill for miles, and from the Lord's castle on its summit, the coast could be seen from over 10 leagues. The architecture was towering and beautiful. Immaculate white rendering, framed with lantern purple heart beams, topped with gleaming spires of silver steel. Its pearlescent white stone walkways wound from the castle atop the hill, through the streets and along the canals. The city bustled with trade, its ports always busy, with merchants from all over Uzorah. Mages from the realm of Elmavar plied their trade. Air and water dancers performed elegant choreography. Fire mages masterfully shaped glassware, and the earth mages formed statues of heroes and royalty. It imposed no systemic laws and exhibited freedom. Absolute freedom. However, as in all things, for every one that sips from the cup, there is another who will drink it dry, indulgence to the point of excess. Perilampros, as the city was once called, began to rot from within, for the promise of absolute freedom was an invitation for those who would bleed the city for everything it had. Over time, Perilampros' beauty became tainted, besmirched with the ugliest traits of humanity. Crime became rampant. Corrupt nobles abused their power to sit atop gang hierarchies, and the Lord, who had his fingers in every pie available, sat back and watched the city crumble from within. Before long, the holy light of Perilampros had all but faded, and the city was soon known only as Bleakhallow. Before long, the glistening spires rusted and deformed. The buildings were graffitied with gang signs to mark territory, and the pristine stone walkways became stained with all manner of filth. The city darkened with violence, rape, blood sports, as well as the gambling over such unsavory games. Bleakhallow became a city of fear, and those who were still able quickly left its walls behind. However, there were many who were shackled to what they had built, financially unable to escape. Not while the unchecked gangs bled them for almost everything they had. With little to no food, even the newer generations were forced to sneak, steal, and kill to survive. Truly, the city was lost. But crime was not the only lingering stench in the air. Blasphemy was what truly led to the city's undoing. The proud gods of Uzorah began to take notice as their statues were defaced, their temples destroyed, and their acolytes were assaulted and violated. The final straw came when the city's oracle took to the Lord with warnings from the gods, warnings that only amuse the Lord. The gods care not for such a lowly city, nor what we do within it. They lounge atop Mount Ragnar in their city of gold, and give no damn to my indulgence, nor your suffering. And to prove his words to all that lived below him, he had the oracle's tongue cut from her mouth, and had her crucified at the castle gate. But when the oracle took her last breath, and the final drop of blood pooled in the earth beneath her, a blinding light descended upon the city of Bleakhallow. The castle shook, and the Lord cowered on his throne, his guards trembling as their armor clattered against itself. The colossal hall doors blasted open with a thunderous crash, and the light split into the room, and at the center was a towering silhouette, at least the height of a giant. As the figure advanced into the room, a huge hammer was the first thing that caught everyone's eyes, made of a glowing, white, crystal-like stone, framed in gold and steel. This was the divine weapon of Kadros, the god of light. Your blasphemy has gone unchecked for too long, ignoble lord of Perilampros, and now you and your ruinous city shall be judged. Kadros said no more, as he turned and headed for the door, where another individual stood waiting. As the Lord stared at them, his eyes widened, his lips starting to shake, as his frightened gaze beheld the oracle's ravaged body. But the visage began to change. The body grew to the same height as Kadros, her blood-stained robes fading into pink and white, and her filth-ridden, matted hair began to billow and rested upon her shoulders, long, clean, and golden blonde. This woman, in her perfect form, was Helena, the goddess of life. As she opened her mouth to talk, a tongue began to form in front of the Lord's eyes. For your heresy, you will be condemned. Your bones will twist and crack. Your muscles will tear. Your pain will be long and intolerable, and by the end, you will not recognize yourself, nor those around you. Your rage will be overwhelming, your bloodlust unquenchable, and your people will tear each other apart until nothing of your blasphemous city remains. A terrifying smile broadened on her heavenly face before following on from Kadros with no more words to be said. Furious, terrified, and confused, the Lord ordered his guards to attack. But all stood in place, unable to find the courage, nor the tenacity to strike at a god. The Lord screamed at his men, his anger ever increasing. As the rage took him, his body buckled, and his limbs stretched and contorted, breaking and reforming, over and over again, until nothing of his humanity remained. His devastating screams of pain became a blood-curdling howl as his face stretched out into a snout, and all that was left were claws and fangs and an insatiable hunger. The beast that now stood in the Lord's place gazed upon the guards. Many dropped their weapons in fear, edging towards the doors. However, those who still held their swords and spears just weren't quick enough to combat the creature that stood before them, as flesh tore beneath the powerful jaws and razor claws. Those who could move ran for the doors, but the beast was too quick. From within the castle echoed desperate shrieks of horror, laced with intermittent howls of bloodlust. As blood poured from the cavernous throne room, the glowing eyes of a hungry predator peered out of the inky blackness. Another howl pierced the night around the castle, and, in response, dozens more rose from the city as the curse took hold. The beasts began to rampage through the streets, hacking down all in their path, stopping only to devour their flesh before moving on to their next victim. The stone walkways were smeared with death, and the canals ran red with blood. Terrified groups ran for their lives, but the beasts had begun to hunt in packs, funneling them through to dead ends, unable to escape before a tide of teeth and claws descended upon them. The earth sucked up the blood like a sponge, the terrified eyes of a wife, as she stared at the beast who had once been her husband, and then to the bodies of the children, savaged by the creature who had once been their father, unadulterated fear still etched into their faces. This was the fate of Bleakhallow, with thousands changing, and thousands being feasted upon, and, over the course of one night, the city tore itself apart, leaving only a barren, bloody stain where a gleaming city of plenty once stood. Few survived the slaughter, and maybe they even considered themselves lucky. However, the curse would remain, and it would only be a matter of time before the rage would take them, like it did their people. And who knows how many more will die, all because of one city's blasphemous decadence.